present to you now something the likes of which you've never seen before. The most dangerous combination in professional sports. The skill, the strength, the stamina, and the ability of two men blended together as one. The most exciting combination in the history of professional wrestling. Twin sons of different mothers.
Chris Adams and Mike Currents.
Let's body slam competition.
Mike, can you recognize that tune?
Oh, yeah.
Don't want to play too much of it. Might get old Vince mad and get his drawers in a bunch or something.
Now,
but
hey,
hey,
wouldn't that tune be under like Free Range's Pomp and Circumstance? It's like 3,000 years old.
I would think so, but if anybody can try to lay claim to something that's not theirs, it's going to be Vince McMahon. So
I'm telling you what, Vince McMahon would try to lay claim to Jesus's sandals. The man is a beast.
Excuse me, you're in my throne. Exactly, we know how that is. This week, as everybody knows, we are doing Randy the Macho Man Savage. I hit the wrong thing, just like me, isn't it? Let me start over, Mike. Let me start over, Mike. This week we're talking Randy Macho Man Savage.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we're meant to go with that. The life and the career of Randy Macho Man Savage. And who says you can't make a 2-hour show about Randy Savage all by himself? Although I'm sure we'll stray off in other directions as we usually do. But, Mike, did you know Randy Savage, out of high school, did not go right into wrestling? Did you know he was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals and sent to the minor league team that they have to play baseball as a catcher?
I did know that. I've seen the card. He kind of looks like Merle Haggard.
He definitely has a different look, doesn't he? A lot of people,
I mean,
it's crazy. The resemblance there, that is.
Yeah, I looked at it and I thought, I'm not sure if he's going to snap into a Slim Jim or sing The Fight Inside of Me.
Well, now, he actually started off with St. Louis now, but he got with the Cincinnati Reds and Chicago White Sox farm systems as well. And I want to say, let's see, I'm looking up right now, though. He last played for the Tampa Tarpons, played 289 games in 4 minor league seasons, batted .254 with 16 home runs and 66 RBIs. It looked like baseball really wasn't his career for him, I would say, if that's over 4 seasons, because he sure didn't play very much. But
well, it's not always about playing.
Right. As about a lot of other wrestlers do, started off in a completely different area. We got some football players in wrestling. We got a couple of baseball players, I guess. We got people from here and there. But the one thing we know for sure, Randy Savage made a name for himself in the wrestling business, not baseball.
This is very true, Chris. This is extremely true. And I got a question for you, Chris.
Uh-huh. What's that?
Do you think we need to expand our intro to include,
I'm going to have to make...
include someone very special to us, and I don't mean special as in. I don't mean special as in he rides that school bus that only holds 7 other people. We actually kind of like him.
I'm gonna have to do something here soon because, and I don't know if I'm going to do it for this or if I'm going to wait till we do the other actual, broadcast we're planning on doing, because we are possibly planning on doing the YouTube Live podcast soon, and that would mean that when we do that, of course, at least 2 out of the 3 of us will be on video. One of us said they may not be able to do it, Killjoy, but Mike and myself, of course, no strangers to putting our handsome faces out there for the world to look at. I mean, hey, it's for you guys. What can we say? And there will be a interactive chat for people who don't want to call in on the line, who do want to go in the chat and drop questions, comments, or even just chat with each other in the process. That will be something up on the screen that we'll be able to see as well. So no time frame when that'll happen, though, Mike. We got to do some test phases with it to see how it works before we kind of launch that, to make sure we got it down first. It is a bit of a different monster than doing the older Skype videos we were doing there for a while. So we'll see how that turns out.
You know what, Chris? All the ladies out there, they spoke up and they said, man, we sure do miss those sexy and handsome men of Body Slam the competition. We have got to be able to see them on video again. Ladies, we were listening to you, and we feel your pain, and we know that your loins, they thirst for our presence. Unfortunately, we're both married, so it'll only have to be in your minds.
Right.
But you will have our faces.
Exactly.
You'll have our faces.
Exactly. You have to settle for just the glare off the top of my head in the camera, all right? You can't reach up and rub the top of my head or anything. That's off limits. Don't think about it. No touching. Unless
you pay adequately.
Well, prices will be soon to be determined. Killjoy will be with us here in a few minutes. He's running a little bit behind tonight. He already dropped me a message letting me know, and he'll be on with us soon.
He's later than an after-prom period.
Well, we can get on to him about it when he gets here. I'll let you tell him all about that.
I'll tell you what he's going to have to learn punctual. The Macho Man was always punctual.
That's right.
He wasn't
always on time.
He didn't always make sense with what he was saying, but he was always in front of that camera, riding the magic cloud of victory into the sky.
Cream of the crop. That was the Macho Man. So, and he would always drop that timely elbow. That's all that mattered.
That's right.
Now, a lot of people. Now, where do you think Randy Savage got his start from?
I wouldn't really. I mean, I would assume his father.
Well, I am looking on here right now. I know he did wrestle, of course, for his father's organization. Angelo Poffo had one of his own there for the longest that he did run. It was the International Championship Wrestling Organization that he did, kind of like a little outlaw promotion they used to call them back in the day. And so he did kind of wrestle for him there before he went to Memphis and wrestled for Nick Goulas and Jerry Jarrett. But before that, though, he had a couple little stints in places. He took the ring name Randy Savage at the suggestion of his longtime friend and trainer Terry the Goose Stevens and Georgia Championship Wrestler Booker Ole Anderson, who said the name Poffo did not fit someone who wrestled like a savage. The Macho Man nickname was adopted after his mother, Judy Poffo, read a Reader's Digest article predicting that the phrase would become the next hot term. So, hence the name Randy Macho Man Savage. He eventually decided to end his baseball career and become a full-time wrestler, working with his brother and father. So he wrestled his first match against Midwest Territory wrestler Golden Boy Paul Christie. And Savage worked with his father and brother in Michigan and the Carolinas, Georgia, the Maritimes, and the Eastern Tennessee Territory run by Nick Goulas. So,
can you imagine, Chris, just for a moment, if that had not happened and Randy, the Macho Man Savage, would never have been? We could have gotten Mario Poffo.
Mario Poffo. I mean, it don't have the same ring to it, does it?
No, I mean,
even the name Randy Poffo doesn't really sound right. I mean, but think about it. To us right now, Randy Poffo sounds just as weird as Lanny Savage, does it not?
It does.
I mean, we all know his brother, Leaping Lanny Poffo or the Genius Lanny Poffo, whichever you want to refer to him as. They were a tag team when they were younger in the Nick Goulas area in Memphis, where they used to feud with the Rock and Roll Express, actually. I'm not sure if you knew about that or not. They feuded over the AWA Southern. He feuded over the AWA Southern Heavyweight Championship against Jerry Lawler, while simultaneously teaming with his brother Lanny Poffo against the Rock and Roll Express for the tag titles there.
Well, that is a very interesting tidbit, Chris. You have done your homework on the Macho Man, have you not?
I actually watched him during that time. So not only did I
that's right, you're old.
I'm old, that's right. Not only did I have a refresher with the homework that I come up here on, but I do remember watching these. I actually remember watching the match where Savage supposedly injured Rick Morton really bad by pile driving into the timekeeper's table. So that was a pretty big time then.
I'd like to wander for just a moment. Did you get the lanyard that I sent you?
I did, thank you. The Dirty Roads lanyard was very nice. That's pretty cool looking there, and I'm actually using it not as we speak. My keys are hanging up, but I do use it daily though.
I wear my Assassin's one daily as well. I just wanted to make sure you got it. I'll be sending you a tube of Metamucil and some Bengay in your Christmas package for your old self.
Well, don't forget the stuff from my arthritis too, because it's starting to kick in the cooler weather.
I'll get you that icy hot patch for your back.
Yeah. Be careful. I got Mr. Rhodes on speed dial, and you are in the same state. Don't forget that.
And I'm still planning on going back down on the 10th and enjoying another evening of IWCW wrestling.
He is looking forward to that, he said. He looks forward to seeing you come back. I wish I had a chance to come over to it myself. It's a heck of a long drive for me to make come to the show and everything, however.
You know, Chris, any man with 2 hands and 2 feet can drive.
That is true. But does he want to drive 8 to 10 hours to come watch a wrestling event? That is the question.
Yes. There is no question.
If I was sitting on a little bit of money, I could fly up there, but, not quite at that point yet.
Spending all your money down at the IHOP.
It's good stuff. Now, is this Dirty Road show coming up another television show they're going to be taping again? Taping, or is it just like a house show?
It will be a TV taping.
Do you know anybody who's going to be there or anything, or do you just recall they're going to have a show there?
I don't know. He didn't disclose the card, but he did say he was going to have a lot of different and new talent from the Connecticut area.
Oh, nice. That sounds pretty cool. Now, how far is Madison, West Virginia from you?
Probably, I do believe Madison's about the same distance as Princeton, but it is a longer in time. Because up here in West Virginia, we don't measure distance by miles. We measure distance by time.
Takes longer to go over one hill than the other, I guess, huh?
I'm telling you, because between me and a town called Addison, West Virginia, there's only about 40 miles of road. But it takes you about an hour and a half to get there.
Well, I did see another show. Now, this isn't a dirty show. This is somebody else who's coming up that way. They're going to have some people. And I don't remember if it was, I'll have to look it up. It may have been, I don't know if it was Bobby Fulton's promotion or if it was somebody different. But Madison, West Virginia was another one there coming your way soon. There'll be another one you could check out if it was close enough to you.
I'll check it out and see. But I'm pretty sure that it's about 3 hours. It's a little bit farther than the travel to go to the Dirty Road show, and if I am correct, it's a lot more back roads traveling.
Now, I do have a wrestling event coming here actually in December that I'm supposed to be going to. It's actually in Panama City. It's a small time promotion that comes here every now and then. The Nighthawk that we had gone with us at one point was going to be there, but he's had to cancel. He's not going to be able to make it any longer. That was one of my main reasons for going there, actually. But from what I understand, it should be a pretty good show as well. So I may go and make the show after all and come back and tell you all about that.
Awesome. Maybe you will see the makings of the next Macho Man at one of these independent shows.
You never can tell these days. You never can tell. Now, what's your earliest memory of the Macho Man?
Ooh, my earliest memory of the Macho Man is probably the time when he was doing commentary for the WWF.
Okay.
I was a little old, or I was a little young to remember WrestleMania 3 in its entirety. So I would him, McMahon, and Jesse Ventura on the announcement team. That's probably some of my earliest memories of him. And then, of course, he broke back into wrestling. He wrestled, I think, on and off with that.
On and off,
I was just a little child.
How little are we talking here, Mike? I mean, I don't think you've ever been little at any point in time.
At one point in time, before I had my tonsils removed, I was quite small. Then I had my tonsils removed, and I realized that I could actually eat, and then that was all downhill from there.
I'm trying to find the name of this wrestling promotion for you to let you know what it is here. It's got to be in here somewhere. I know it's the WIW, but I can't find the show that's coming up in December, though, for the advertisement. I'll find it for the show's over with and let you know, though. Sounds pretty good, though. So, Macho Man, like I said, my earliest thing for him is going to be definitely in Memphis when he was teaming with his brother and then feuding with Lawler at the same time. At one point in time, him and Lawler also tagged with each other. Savage had a face turn where they fought against Jimmy Hart's first family there in Memphis. And with eventually leading to Savage doing another heel turn to challenge Lawler for that title once again. Savage, that was around 1984, was considered one of the top free agents basically in wrestling at the time. So, very coveted. Vince McMahon wanted him though, and he'd already talked with him, and he was going to sign the papers to come work for him. So what they did was they did a loser leave town match. If Savage won, he got the belt. If Lawler won, Savage had to leave Memphis. And as it was, of course, Lawler won, Savage had to leave Memphis, and therefore he debuted in WWF not too long after that.
So this also brings up the question: was there anybody that Lawler didn't beat and they had to leave town?
There wasn't anybody at one point, hardly, that Lawler didn't face at least one time. Maybe not in a loser leave town match, but he faced pretty much everybody that's out there today. He fought Ric Flair on television in Memphis. He has fought King Kong Bundy, Rick Rude, Kamala the United Giant, Sid Vicious, The Undertaker. Now, some of these were under different names at the time.
And now, see, this is why I will stand by this when people come at me and say, who is the greatest wrestler of all time? And I'm just going to tell them, it's Jerry Lawler. And when they look at me with that perplexed look, I want to say, well, he's wrestled and beat just about everybody you can imagine.
Pretty much. I mean, it also helps when you're also co-owner of the promotion at one point. But but he did the right thing. But he did do the right thing while he was there, though. He didn't just keep the belt on him. He lost the belt many times to people coming through there. He put people over. So when you put people over, as a champion and someone who helps run the company, then that not only makes you a great businessman, but a great guy as well, because you got to keep people interested. You got to keep the people who's working there interested. They're not going to want to come there and just fight against you. They're going to lose every week. Well, him and Savage had quite a few great matches with each other. Not all were title matches. Some were just grudge matches and things like that. And they went back and forth on their wins. A lot of crazy stories about Savage back in that day too. If anybody is whoever's listening to the show, if you get a chance, grab one of Dutch Mantel's books. Grab both of his books. He's got Tales from the Dirt Road and The World According to Dutch, I believe is what they're called. He's got some great stories on there, and one of them covers Randy Savage in Nashville after a thing at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Him and Rip Rogers had left there and gone to get something to eat. They were starving. They said they went to a Waffle House. It was real late at night on a Saturday night. And they're in there waiting to get their order taken. And this guy comes in, the young kid, got a cowboy hat on. And he's like, they're just about to come get his order. And he said he was starving. They're about to come get his order. And the way Rip Rogers told the story to Dutch Mantel was, just when they took the order, this kid comes in and exclaims, "She said yes, you." Redneck Tennessee voice. The people stopped, and they're all clapping for him. They're congratulating him, and they're like, "That's great." Everybody's ignoring Savage at this point. And he's hungry. So finally, he just says loud enough for everybody to hear, who really cares? That's not really what he said, but I'll just tone it down for the show a little bit. He said, who really cares? So the kid looks at him, and he comes over, he says, "Well, you got a problem?" And before he knew it, the problem stood up, and he was a lot bigger than he was. So the kid didn't want no fight, basically, but he pulled a knife out on him, too. So that started the whole thing. There's the fight starting now. They call the cops. Cops get up there. The kid leaves when he hears the sirens coming. Savage sits back down to eat, thinking he'll be in the clear, and they're going to take him in. He fights, I want to say, the book says 4 cops, I think. He takes on 4 cops. They can't subdue him. They bring in a sergeant, and just so happened that sergeant had worked the fairgrounds that night, security, for the wrestling event. So he knew who Savage was, and he'd met him already before and everything. And he says, you got to calm down now. You got to come down to the station with me so we can get this straightened out. And he said he wasn't going nowhere till he ate. Well, they brought a dog in, and he thought he'd fight the dog. He said that was the biggest mistake he ever made. Dog took a chunk out of his butt, and needless to say, he had stitches later after he left the police station. Moral of the story, Mike? Don't fight a police dog.
Well, just wait and place your order later. You'll save a hole in the ass.
It couldn't have been worth all that much. Couldn't have been that hungry. But he did a lot of great stories. Oh no, still didn't get to eat anything. Still, all that trouble. Got nothing to eat for his troubles. Now, Randy Savage, we're going to jump. We're just going to bounce around a little bit. We're not going to go in, directly in order, of course, because Killjoy will be here eventually. He'll want to jump back on some things too.
Are you sure? Are you sure Killjoy's coming?
He said, "I'm running 5 minutes late. Sorry."
20 minutes ago.
So we'll see. He's on what I like to refer to as Carolyn time. It's an inside joke at home. Hopefully she doesn't listen. I'll be getting an earful later if she is. But he's running behind, to say the least. But we'll jump around a little bit here because I know he'll want to jump back on some of the earlier things as well. Randy Savage is a multi-talented person in his mind, at least anyway, because not only did he do wrestling, but he did appear in the Spider-Man movie as a bit of a small part as a cage fighter and taking on Peter Parker after he got his powers. And he also made a rap album. Can you imagine the Macho Man rapping?
No.
Macho Man rapping. Look it up on YouTube. Makes a song about Hulk Hogan too. He makes a song about Hulk Hogan too.
Oh yeah.
makes a song about Hogan about being a man or something like that. I forget exactly how it went. You have to look it up and see for yourself though.
Never mind.
But multi-talented person. Been a part of a lot of great things, a lot of great feuds. Fought the Hulk Hogans, the Jerry Lawlers, the Ricky Steamboats. He'd been in the ring with a lot of people over the years. A lot of great matches. The WrestleMania 3 match with Ricky Steamboat, a lot of people will argue is probably his greatest match he'd been in, probably ever. It was a really good match.
A lot of people argue it's the best WrestleMania match of all time.
They do. It's very argumentative about it. And it was a great match. It was a great WrestleMania too. I remember seeing that on TV when it came out. It was great. And when I saw that, that was the highlight of the night for me. And everybody else was talking about, Hogan slamming Andre. I'm saying, hey, did you see that Steamboat Savage match where Steamboat rolled him up for the victory? Awesome.
I was 3.
I can't help it. You're young and it's not your fault. The George the Animal Steel bit, though, that was always classic stuff right there. You can go back and see this stuff, now, YouTube, the network, however you want to look at it. But that was some classic stuff with George Steele, always having the crush on Elizabeth, wanting to get with her and everything. And, Savage would have the biggest fits of him getting close to her. He come out there after he lost the IC belt to a Steamboat, was claiming outside interference with George Steele, but that was fine. Now he's turning his attention to the World Heavyweight Championship. Going to start feuding with Hogan, which eventually led to them forming the actual Superpowers, I believe they called themselves, or something along those lines. No, the Mega Powers. Couldn't take the term Superpowers. That was already taken by Dusty and Nikita, I believe.
Yes, you are correct.
Now, talented family, too, on top of it. Now, we said we were going to mention his career and family both. If you think you're going to talk about him, his dad was a wrestler for quite a while there and very established as well. And his brother never actually made it to, main event status. But, Lanny Poffo is still kind of going today a little bit at times. He makes appearances at some of these shows. He does a match here and there, I believe he still does, other than just appearances. And that would be someone good to get on the show one time and talk some stuff with. He could tell some good Randy Savage stories, I'm sure. Tell us about some times on the road with him, things he had done as well and everything. That would be nice. Have to shoot for that one day. But I don't know why his brother never made it bigger than what he did, though. I mean, like I said, in Memphis, when he tag teamed with Savage, he was considered something kind of big at the time, a big deal. And had a few nice solo matches of his own. But when he reached the WWF status, it just all kind of went downhill for him from there. The genius, Lanny Poffo, they say. Well, actually, he was, Mike. He was Leaping Lanny Poffo first, wasn't he?
I do believe he was. And that's a example of where a gimmick can just absolutely stagnate someone's career.
Yeah.
Because the Genius was a really bad gimmick.
It's not that it was that bad of a gimmick. It's just that, I mean, you still could have taken somebody with that Genius gimmick and thrown them into more of a...
But not Lanny Poffo.
Maybe not.
He didn't have the Genius look. It's almost as bad as Akeem the African Dream.
Yeah, that didn't really fit too well.
There is nothing African about Akeem.
No, they should have stuck with the one-man gang through and through there.
Yeah.
That was the gimmick for him. He'd made it big already. Why change something that's working already, What if the one-man gang had been around still? I don't know that he would have. I think this was after his time by quite a few years. I don't know. But remember when they had all these factions that were going around? And they had the little biker gang kind of look?
Oh,
I forget who all was in it. Brian Adams was one of them. One that played Crush. He was called something else. And they had that little gang. I forget their name. I really do. But I mean, anyway, one-man gang would have fit in well with a situation like that. Maybe he wouldn't even have to wrestle. Maybe he could just been the leader of the group or something, and that would have been it. But something like that would have worked pretty well. Now, the thing that I thought, at one point, I kind of thought Savage's career was kind of on a dead note. When he went to the announce table, I thought, well, he's not going to be as entertaining as an announcer as he was a wrestler. We knew he could do it. He could talk. And as long as he could talk, that's all that mattered. But I think he made a big turn for himself, kind of like some of the others did, when he actually went to WCW and restarted his stuff there. And, Mike, I'd say for Savage going to WCW, it's probably better late than never, kind of like some other people, better late than never. Would you say so?
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Finally he shows up. Later, I said it before, Chris, I'll say it again, he is later than an after prom period.
Yeah!
You waiting all day for that, weren't you?
He's been waiting. No, he's been waiting for 29 minutes, sir. That's how long he's been waiting for it.
Oh, come
I'll
on,
be
man.
5 minutes late.
Well, it just, yeah.
In Jersey time.
Yeah, Jersey time.
He says, I don't know what happened. Traffic was hell, guys. I just couldn't make it in.
The dog ate my homework, man. What do you want?
No, you know what? We're going to let you slide just this one time. And I'm going to tell you what else we did for you, and just for you only. Oh. We kind of bounced around a little bit from Savage's early career to his middle career. And I was just going to touch on his later career now. And we left some in-betweens there because I know you, like me, like some of the old school stuff. So I left some stuff out there for you to chew on a little bit.
Oh, cool. Yay. Yay. You guys love me.
Mike, I note some sarcasm there.
Yeah.
I'm starting to second guess my thoughts about adding him to the intro, Chris.
Yeah.
What?
Well, kicking a thought around him actually putting your name there. But if you're going to be 29 minutes late every week, it'll have to say, Chris Adams, Mike Kearns, and the sometimes on time Killjoy.
No.
Oh my God.
Eventually
Killjoy.
Hey, as long as you don't call me late for dinner. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway.
So what's your we were just talking earlier about his early stuff. What's your first memory of Savage there?
My first memory of Savage is watching, because unfortunately I didn't have cable all the way back when he was in like Nashville and all that stuff. I saw him in Georgia Championship Wrestling, and he just looked like they had one of those vignettes, and I was like, who is this guy? He was just walking around, his voice was gravelly, he was like, what? And he's one of the most intense people I've ever seen. I was like, who is this guy? But as quickly as he was there was as quickly as he left. But I read a lot with the aftermath, so I kept up with him. And as soon as I saw him in WWF, I was like, oh, here we go. What is this guy? Like, let's see what he can do. And then I just saw him beat the living shit out of this jobber, and I was like, wow. Like, he was doing shit that I'd never seen. I loved when he would run, jump off of the steel steps, and just come with an axe handle. Like, he was a vicious, vicious man for WWF's, like, rock and wrestling thing. He was a breath of fresh air. I was very happy to see him.
Now, do you know where he took the name Randy Savage from? Have you heard that story?
Sweet Daddy Siki, I believe.
Nope, no.
He wrestled like a Savage. He fought him. He fought him. That's what it was.
Now, and wrestled like a savage is the term, but it wasn't from him though. And I did say this earlier, so I'll just go over it quickly for you. But he took the name Randy Savage at the suggestion of his longtime friend and trainer Terry the Goose Stevens and Georgia Championship Wrestling booker Ole Anderson, who said the name Poffo. Yeah. He said the name Poffo did not fit someone who wrestled like a savage. The Macho Man nickname was adopted after his mother Judy Poffo read a Reader's Digest article predicting that phrase would become the next hot term. Yeah. So the name Macho Man Randy Savage was now born.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But you got.
That's what he did. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying it's funny because of the whole baseball career. Like, could you see him as a baseball player? I don't know.
Considering the 4 minor league seasons, he batted .254 with 16 home runs and 66 RBIs as a catcher. No. Couldn't see that. I guess possibly to his defense, though, he did throw out his shoulder while he was in the minor leagues, and he had to learn to use his left arm more. So
the catcher threw out his shoulder.
He threw out his shoulder with actually it was a collision at home plate, not threw out his shoulder. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Injured his throwing shoulder after a collision at home plate, and therefore he had to learn to throw with his left arm instead. Now, can you imagine trying to learn to throw, as a catcher needs to, with your left arm when you've been a righty the whole time?
Yeah.
It's got to be almost nearly impossible.
Now, see, Chris, context, and it matters, Chris.
I know what you're.
It could have been that he was around during that same time that one dude was from the NWA fighting in 1945 and 50 and 55 and 60 and you said he died in 1912? Never mind.
1917.
I don't even know still. So I mean, it doesn't matter. We're talking.
I got.
This can't be.
Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. People magazine has stated that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the sexiest man alive. To be fair, Mike Kearns pulled his name out of the running because he knew that no man could ever stand up against him. So, Rock, you're welcome.
No, it's no woman could ever stand him.
It was nice of you to step down like that, Mike.
You know what, Killjoy? They can't stand any more than just the tip.
Hey, look, I'm just trying to be a hand model. That's it. Whatever. I know I'm not getting anywhere. Anyway, hey, let's get back to the subject.
Yes, Mike, we got one thing to say, and we're getting back. Now that's out of the way here. Let's get back to Randy Savage. Do you remember when he first hit the WWF? When he first came on TV, everybody was trying, as far as storyline goes, they were all after him. He was the top free agent in pro wrestling, and he come out there, and all these managers all showed up. Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, Classy Freddie Blassie. They're all offering their services to Randy Savage. They all wanted him. To which case, he eventually declined their offers and chose Miss Elizabeth as his new manager. Which shocked a lot of people, I think. That was not what they were expecting. They were thinking someone like that would take a Jimmy Hart or a Bobby Heenan, especially since he'd been around for so long, that he could make something big with him and everything. And he instead go with a valet instead.
Let me ask you a question. If he didn't go that route, do you think he would have been better off? Because a lot of shit happened with Elizabeth. He was superiorly jealous. There's reports that he would have her stay in the locker room and go to the ring and then come back, and she had to stay.
It's kind of hard to say. Mike, what do you think?
Unequivocally, yes. If Miss Elizabeth had never happened, he would have been much better off, especially later in life.
Would he have been the same character, though? Because his gimmick was a crazed, egomaniacal, maniacal bully who mistreated Miss Elizabeth, though, and threatened anyone who even looked at her. So would he have been the same person?
Him.
Right, but would he have been the same character under Bobby Heenan or Jimmy Hart?
Yes, because that was him.
So.
Yeah, it was him. That wasn't a gimmick. That wasn't a character. That was Randy Poffo.
That was him. But that's also the character they had him portray on TV as well. And I'm not denying that's what he was in real life as well, because that's where a lot of his troubles was happening in real life behind the scenes too. And you're right about that. But I just wonder, would they have had him portray a different character on TV versus what his character was with Miss Elizabeth? Or did they just figure, you know what, this is how he is. We got to put something that fits around him to get this talent out of him to put him in the business for us.
I think this personality was so strong that they couldn't have changed it. We would have gotten the Macho Man, the Macho King, Macho Madness. We'd have got it all, with or without Miss Elizabeth.
And let's face it though, all of those gimmicks worked because of him. What I mean is, Macho King. Most people have been like, yeah, right, whatever. But he made it work because of who he was. I mean, I really think if Hogan was not in the picture, Macho Man would have been top dog. He would have been top dog for a very long time because he was that polarizing. Or not even polarizing, but that people loved him regardless. You had the on the surface fans that were like, I hate him. But everybody, it didn't matter whether you hated him or liked him. You loved him. Doesn't matter. And the thing
you loved to hate him.
You did. You loved to hate him, but there was something about him. Hogan was larger than life, unfortunately. Hogan, once he tapped into his persona, because he was shit before that, but once he came into Hulkamania and he came into his own, it wasn't stopping him. He was 6'8". He was a fucking, he was a larger than life. He just was. If he wasn't there, Randy Savage would have been a different WWF. I just think.
I'd have to agree with it, though. I mean, because he was the next, like you were saying, everybody was so drawn to him. Either you liked him or you hated him, and you were one of the two. And there was no in-between with it, really. And with Hogan not there, this is falls back on one of Mike's old theories. What if Hogan had stayed with the AWA and Savage had went to the WWF? Would we have seen a Ric Flair rep for the NWA, a Hulk Hogan rep for the AWA, and a Randy Savage rep for the WWF? Is that how it would have went, do you think, at that point? Because Randy Savage was the top one at that point, you would think. And when he first came in, I mean, his very first pay-per-view match, he went through quite a few names in that match. It was a wrestling classic on November 7th, 85, it says here, participated in a 16-man tournament. He defeated Ivan Putski, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, defeated the Dynamite Kid before losing by a count out in the finals to the Junkyard Dog. That's 4 names right there that aren't anything to laugh at, really.
Coming in,
I'm sorry. I was going to say, just coming in for something like that, you come in and that's what you go through right off the bat, and you get that far into it, they've got big plans for you.
Absolutely. There's a couple of problems going to Hogan in AWA. If Vern was not in charge, and maybe Greg was, I think Hogan would have really been successful. But let's just say that it is, and here comes Savage. The thing that I have a problem with is when Hogan was with Savage, that kind of thing. Even Savage's victory for the world title, still Hogan had a hand in it. You understand what I mean? Because that was like, first of all, let's face it, Ted DiBiase was going to win in kayfabe. If you look at it, he had the fucking sleeper on, the $1 Million Dream, and what did Hogan do? Hogan hit him with the belt or the chair. And my thing is, again, Hogan had to be a part of that. He, Macho Man couldn't have his own win. He couldn't have his own thing. It had to be Hogan. And that would bother me if I was Macho Man. He's always been number 2. If you think about it, he was always number 2 until Ultimate Warrior. He was always number 2 until Warrior. Everybody said it. He was number 2. He was always number 2, right under him. And not even like Piper, because Piper was a great foil. But let's face it, nobody believed that Piper could beat Hogan. You know what I mean? Like, nobody believed that. People believed that Macho Man had a great chance of beating Hogan. Everybody thought that.
Well, similar build, but faster, a little more refined possibly in the ring there. He didn't really wrestle so much as like Hogan did. He was more of I don't want to call him a brawler either, but he was more about throwing the punches, dropping the elbows, knee drops, some clotheslines, the big axe handle like you talked about earlier, off the top rope with the axe handle, or running off the steps on somebody. He was just, I could seriously see him leading the WWF for a bunch of years. Instead of having Hulkamania, it could have been a Macho Mania,
Yeah.
But we talked earlier. Was that Mike?
Macho Mania.
Macho Mania. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Macho Man.
So you know what he would say to Macho Mania?
Oh, yeah!
That's what he would say right there. He basically started something that led to one of the greatest matches of all time. He started a feud with Tito Santana for that Intercontinental title. And they had some pretty decent matches with the two of them going back and forth. I never was a huge Tito fan, but I mean, back in that day when I was younger, I guess, he was probably just as big to me as everybody else was at the time, like Ricky Steamboat or, people in that general Junkyard Dog and people of that nature and stuff. So they had some good stuff going on. And then when he took that title from him, and it led up to him and Steamboat at WrestleMania 3 eventually, that was, in my opinion, what a lot of people say also is the best match ever at WrestleMania, and probably even Macho Man's career at that point. It could have been the best match of his career, possibly. And they say that him and Steamboat rehearsed every spot of that match prior to WrestleMania at Savage's home in Florida to make sure they had everything down, because they said Savage was a stickler for detail and didn't want nothing messed up in the match, and they wanted to put on the best match of the night. That match was actually named 1987's Match of the Year by both Pro Wrestling Illustrated and the Wrestling Observer both.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, if you think about it, was there ever a bad Savage match where where it counted, or at all? Because I mean, he's a guy. He was perfectionist, and he was good at his craft, at what he did.
Honestly, the only bad thing I've ever seen Savage do ring-wise was the TNA stint. It was a mistake. That was probably it.
The what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
His little stint in TNA.
Oh, well, I don't consider that wrestling, so we're good.
That was kind of a bad idea by a lot of people that they made, a bad decision at the time. I know it was an honest attempt at TNA to try to make themselves legit, but they were legit with young talent that they were afraid to push, it seemed like, at the time. And Savage coming in there wasn't going to help that out very much, because people at Savage's age at that point in time are not there to help make some of the young ones look good. They're there to get that last bit of limelight for themselves. You know, look at Ric Flair, prime example. Can't let go, wants to still be on the big show, does what he can to try and be in the big WrestleMania matches still. Not today, I mean, but, you know, for a while there before he finally hung it up for real, or they just quit letting him come in, one of the two. But what do you? How would you compare Savage's career at WWF/WWE versus his career in the WCW from the beginning, going all the way through NWO before he left?
I think he was more successful in the WWF. He made more of a legacy. He let me put it this way: he wrestled McMahon's way, but still wrestled his way. And not a lot of guys could do that. Not a lot of guys that came into WWF, they had to transition, and in transitioning, they lost that spark. Randy kept it from the time he got there to the time he left. He got to the NWO, he was damaged goods, man. He wasn't like early WCW was nice and everything, but he was already settled down. He didn't have that spark. He wasn't even wrestling really. He did a lot of commentating at that time. So I'm saying WWF, like, he just, regardless of what he did anywhere else, he that legacy, people will always remember Savage for that legacy. Not for WCW, not for NWO. Like, you think NWO? Do you really think Randy Savage?
No, I think I think Randy Savage, and Mike, you can probably agree with this, was just sitting there playing, you know, third and fourth fiddle, because when you think NWO, you're thinking Hogan, you're thinking Hall, you're thinking Nash, and then when he went to the Wolfpack, you're still thinking Nash, you're thinking Sting, you know, you're thinking Luger, and then you're also thinking Macho Man. And then Conan was the young, he was the young blood of it there at the time for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, but I mean, he was over. I think Conan was most over when he was in the Red and Black. Honestly, I think the Wolfpack. I think that's it. But you're right. Like, he got pushed out of the way. He didn't have a storyline. He didn't have anything. He just kind of came aboard, and it just wasn't. It wasn't the same. And by the time he left with a whimper, not a bang. You know, nobody was like. I mean, he was like, I'm leaving and stuff like that, and everybody's like, oh, that sucks, see you later. You know what I mean? WWF, people remember Macho Man. They think they're fucking, well.
I don't really think that I don't know if he really liked his stint in the WCW as much as he did the WWF. Guys, there's this quote I'm looking at right now. And, Mike, tell me what you get from this quote here. I mean, it should be pretty much spot on here, but Hulkamania is like a single grain of sand in the Sahara Desert that is Macho Madness.
Huge.
You know, nobody's going to deny that the Macho Man's ego was bigger than everyone, except maybe Ric Flair's. And that right there just shows it. It shows that he sees himself as bigger than everyone, and much bigger than Hogan, which unfortunately he wasn't. Even though he was a superior wrestler, even though he had the superior gimmick because that was him. And it's always better when someone is able to be truer to themselves in their gimmick than trying to be something that they completely are not.
Right. And I think we could probably agree between the three of us here that you talk about his ego being bigger than Flair's possibly, or right along with it. When Flair came to the WWF, what was the better feud? The small feud we got to see with him and Hogan, or the Savage Flair feud they had going on?
Wow, that Savage Flair feud was pretty Like I would even say that Bret Hart Flair was better than Hogan. It didn't lead up to the hype until WCW, and WCW it still was cheap, which I thought was insulting that Hogan got over on Flair even in WCW in the mid-90s. But I digress. So the thing is, yeah, that match I'd have to say it was because both of them were workers. You know what I mean? Like Flair had to deal with Hogan. He always had to deal with big guys, but I mean he had to deal with Hogan. And Hogan couldn't really wrestle. You know? So I would say that I would think that Macho versus Flair was the better feud.
I agree. Now, as far as where he was more successful in his career, that's going to be really difficult. I'm with Killjoy that he submitted his legacy in the WWF. But it's hard to discredit the fact that he was a 4-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion. And he only held the WWF title twice.
But here's the thing. Does anybody remember that? Because, I do. That's fine. Me personally, when I think of the WCW Championship, won multiple times, I think DDP over, of Macho Man, to be quite honest. That's what I think of. In my mind, I have him holding up the title of DDP. And the thing is, let's face it, Macho at that point could have called his shots on top of monetarily, he was making money hand over fist in WCW because everybody was around that time.
That's part of the problem they had.
Huh? That's
part of the problem that the WCW had. Hey, let's just pay everybody everything.
Well, that WCW and TNA had the same problem. They wanted to bring the old guys. They didn't want to work with any of the talent, the younger talent. The only person they wanted to put over was Goldberg because he was a monster. And then you had 12 billion people in the NWO. So,
And Goldberg came a little later. He 97?
Yeah.
And honestly, the old guys that we're referring to really weren't that old in WCW. I mean, they were, most of them were in their prime still at that time. Even Flair.
Yeah, they were. Don't get me wrong, but they were established. They had been in the business at that point for almost 20 years, most of them.
Right.
When you think about Eddie Gilbert. I'm sorry. Think about Chris Hennig, because I was the WWF. Bret Hart. You talk about those guys who have been in fucking Macho. Macho was in the 70s at that point. He was not in the 70s, but he had wrestled in the 70s, and here it is in 90s. So everybody had miles on. Plus, you have to remember that they also had a lot of injuries too. They didn't wrestle that much because of that. They hung back. They didn't do half of the stuff they used to do because that's what was going on. But I digress. TNA had the same problem, only they didn't have the budget. They didn't.
Well, I think also a lot of it was too, Killjoy, is that at the time that you had all the old guys in WCW, the breeding ground for the young guys to come up was gone. The indie scene, the territories were gone, all but by that time. So the WCW failed by developing young talent because there was nowhere to develop them because all the territories were gone. So you weren't having a guy who had been, NWA Mid-America champion 5 times and had been wrestling for 10 years. You had whatever they were pumping out of the power plant and guys like Goldberg.
Oh yeah, those guys. They were. It was literally like a factory.
And we are still seeing, to an extent, we're still seeing the effects of that period in professional wrestling. We're still that were made by there being no territories for these guys to come up in. We're finally starting a little bit to break away from that with guys like El Generico, Kevin Owens, Dean Ambrose, to an extent Seth Rollins, but I am not a Seth Rollins fan. I think that he's garbage.
Oh, that sucks.
But that's either here
or
there.
Oh no, I think Seth Rollins is one of the top people. I know he claims the man to be he's the man, but I mean as far as athletically gifted and he can excite the fans and stuff. He's a little careless. He's definitely a little bit careless. He's injured 4 people, and that may not be it may not be all his fault, but he is careless yet just the same. So I just don't know. I mean, about that part, but he does excite the crowds a lot, and he's an excellent heel. He can make you hate him.
Hogan excited the crowds a lot, but it doesn't mean that he was, a good wrestler. I just don't see Seth Rollins as a good wrestler. I see him as a good showman.
I think people got excited over the thought of Hulk Hogan. Then you get excited by Hulk Hogan. It's the thought of Hulkamania. It's just the thought of seeing him Hulk up in that match one time and do his little signature move, and that'd be it. There was nothing great and spectacular about Hogan after that until he took that heel turn and started doing that little, Hollywood Hogan bit, which was kind of arrogant and everything, and it kind of started a whole new thing for him a little bit there for a bit. But Seth Rollins, he's an excellent heel when it comes out there. He can make you hate him in so many different ways. He made you hate him a lot when he broke up the Shield and turned on them and leveled them with the chairs and left them laying in the ring. The way he did John Cena to get McMahon then reinstated back in power again. That little skit they had going with that. So he can definitely work the crowd as a heel real well. And right now he's over pretty well as a face.
Yeah.
He can do it both ways, just like Shawn Michaels could. And I see why they always compare him to him and everything. But back to your WCW bit, I think one of the biggest things, including Macho Man Randy Savage, when he was there, that really brought that down was, yes, they brought in a lot of the older guys, but they were letting them call a lot of their own shots too. I mean, they paid them a lot of money, yes, but you can pay these guys the money if you're not going to sit there and let them call the shots and just make their own shows. When you start letting the old guys come in and call the shots only and make the shows, they're going to make it about themselves and the rest of their friends and not the young talent. And that's where they started messing up. And that's why they lost Jericho. That's why they lost Guerrero. That's why they lost Benoit. That's why they lost Saturn and Malenko. That's why they lost a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem they had, is that the cruiserweights were blowing the competition away, or not even competition, but the main event. Like, people wanted to see the main event, but that got stale. After a while, they were throwing. Wait, but this way, people were not throwing garbage into the ring when the cruiserweights were going. Around that time,
but they were sure doing the NWO that way after a while.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, but they would do that in WWE. It was like the main events. They were doing that WWF once in a while, but mainly WCW. They throw the trash. They would do that, and the whole thing was, and that started honestly with the very first NWO. They started throwing trash because they were upset that Hogan turned, but they weren't doing that. You didn't hear a boo every time that there was a cruiserweight. Well, it depends on the cruiserweight, but for the most part, the cruiserweights, they ran the shows. People were tuning in. In fact, it dropped off the rating after the cruiserweights. After cruiserweights, nobody wanted to see it. Like, they went back for the main event, but as a whole, they didn't. There was like that 1 hour that hit because the cruiserweights were doing phenomenal. Sorry, excuse me, I just sneezed. But yeah, so, but as far as Macho Man, as far as his success, you could say that. You could say that WCW is more successful. However, I really think at that time, and it's weird because we're talking about rock and wrestling around the time that Macho Man still like that cheesy mark, but you still had top guys in there. You still had, and I just feel like in WCW, yes, he wrestled guys that were tough, but I just think it was different. I don't know how to explain it. I think for Macho Man and not very many people, he had to go against guys that were kind of phenomenal. So, or just were really good. Like him and Steamboat. That was just amazing. That was 15 minutes of one of the most amazing matches, and it was only 15 minutes. It was just amazing from start to finish. I didn't like the ending, obviously. I really didn't, because it looked like Steamboat needed help to win. I never liked that. I'm like that. I hate that. Like, I want it to be a straight-up match. And that's the only thing that robbed, I think, of me saying it was the all-time greatest match. If there was a finish, I probably would have called it the greatest match I've ever seen in my life.
I think we'd all love just a straight finish. We'd all love a straight finish with all the matches for the most part. I mean, when it comes down to it. But do you guys think that? Would you guys say that his career changed significantly when they put him and Hogan together as the Mega Powers?
Yes, because I think at that point, what else could they do? That was I almost feel like you had two gods together, and then they broke off and they had a match which was, but what more could you do at that point? It set up a great feud, so I could say that. I don't know. I think it set up a great feud, so I think it was a positive thing. But in real life, it was very negative, because there was legit jealousy. There was legit jealousy.
There was legit heat between the two of them in real life, as we were saying. Well,
yeah.
Mike, would you say they kind of were repeating the process? I mean, history repeated itself once again when they had the Savage turn on Hogan in this match, kind of like Paul Orndorff turned on Hogan earlier in the years.
Well, I'm with Killjoy. I mean, it was where it had to go. And it did absolutely change Savage's career. And I think it changed Hogan's in a way as well.
Yeah. And what do you think it changed Hogan's career for him?
It had the immortal Hulk Hogan, and I think it showed that, here's Savage, and he could just as easily have been Hogan. And it kind of showed that Hogan wasn't always... I mean, I know Orndorff turned on him, but it wasn't the same as when Savage turned on him.
Well, yeah, because Savage had that star power. I personally love, and I'm sad that a lot of people forget about Orndorff and Hogan. Because that I think was the turn that you knew was coming, but maybe because I'm a kid, like I didn't see coming to a certain degree, but it was coming, whatever. But they did it so masterfully, and he was such a great heel by that time. And I just think it was amazing. The problem is he didn't have the star power. He just didn't have that it factor. I mean, he did, but he didn't have that, Orndorff had a very high mid-card. Like, if he was an A, he wasn't an A+. So let's say he's an A. Savage is an A+ player, man. Warrior's an A+ player, regardless of what we think about his wrestling skills and whatnot. Those personalities are A+. And Savage he lived what he was called, Savage. He was intense all the time. He never stopped. He was very rarely was he calm. And when he was calm a calm before the storm all the time. So it's not fair to a certain degree, but it is what it is. But you couldn't touch Savage Hogan. They were two gods going at it. It's just the way it was.
One of the bad parts about it, during the time where it led up to a big feud between the two, and it did. But one of the bad parts about the feud was when they brought in the No Holds Barred movie into the mix, and they brought Zeus, into the mix, into WWF, and tried to make it, like a real life thing, that the character from the movie No Holds Barred is here to destroy Hulk Hogan, and him and Randy Savage are teaming together in a cage match against, I think it was Hogan and Beefcake, wasn't it? Instead of the Mega Powers, they were the Mega Maniacs or something like that.
Yeah.
Isn't it always Hogan and Beefcake?
Oh, it had been in the past, the Boulder Brothers.
Hogan.
From back in.
Zodiac, the Booty Man.
Oh, stop. I'm still going to therapy for those two.
But they went that direction with it. I mean, I don't see why. I mean, I know Vince likes to do stupid stuff sometimes, but to bring in the Zeus character from the No Holds Barred movie and throw that into the actual wrestling bit there just didn't seem like it was worthy of a storyline. I never liked that part they did that. I always thought there was better ways. They could have made it just between Macho Man, Randy Savage, and Hulk Hogan only, not have to make another tag team with, Hogan and Beefcake, unless it was just Hogan's way of trying to get Beefcake back in the spotlight, since him and the Greg the Hammer Valentine hadn't been tagging for a while, and the Barber, Brutus the Barber, had kind of lost his luster a little bit. He wasn't that popular anymore. Bringing him back in the limelight with him, he thinks might boost his popularity one more time. And I think that was a failed experiment more than anything.
I agree.
I don't know, but the whole Macho King thing was a little turnaround for him, at least.
Yeah.
Doing the whole King of the Ring bit as a Macho King. I believe, who did he defeat? Was it
Duggan,
Jim Duggan?
Jim Duggan.
Yeah, Jim Duggan.
I do remember seeing that in the YouTube video, because I was still fairly young.
Well, let me ask you guys this: what do you think of the Savage Warrior match? Do you remember that? Anyone?
I can remember bits and pieces of it. I didn't watch. I wasn't watching WWF 100% of the time when this was all going on at this point in time. Later on, I went more toward WCW than I was WWF, toward the Crockett promotion and such. I was more really into that, so I didn't watch a lot of it. It did come on Sunday mornings for me to see, and I kept up with it a little bit. And I always got the pay-per-views, but I wasn't a huge, big thing into it that much anymore, because I then got a little bit older. The whole Hulkamania thing had then worn off. The Randy Savage bit had kind of worn off on me a little bit already. He's past that point. They had that stupid thing I didn't like with him and Zeus. And then you go through and you got this, I don't know. And then didn't they do a tag team with each other as well? Didn't they combine for a tag team at one point?
Yeah.
It was like Savage Hogan all over again. Now it's Savage Warrior. It's like they're just rinse and repeating storylines out there at that point in time. And I was having a hard time, keeping up with WWE and really getting interested in it. So I didn't watch a lot of it back then, really. Mike, that's more during your time frame, though. What did you think about it?
Oh, they were called the Ultimate Maniacs.
Right.
Actually, the Warrior Savage feud was a little before my time.
Still? Man, you are young. Get out of here.
I'm telling you, I mean, he did the. Man, I told KJ, you,
hold on,
my earliest memories are his color commentary.
I don't mean to interrupt, Mike. I don't mean to interrupt, but 1 second. I gotta talk with KJ for a second. All right, hey.
Yeah. Let the men talk. Okay, chill out. Go ahead.
KJ, listen. All right, don't say anything to Mike. All right, but I'm thinking about dropping him for Fred Peggs, because Fred's old like us. And he knows wrestling.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Mike, you can go ahead now. I'm sorry.
hey, Mike, do us a favor. Leave for 29 minutes, okay? We're going to talk.
Oh, yeah?
All right, so it's not really during your time, but what did you think about it? Did you go back and take a look at it, see what you thought about it? I'm sure you've seen YouTube videos, network videos, things about stuff, because that was some big stuff with WWF, in their opinion, at least, anyway.
It really didn't interest me all that much. I never really got into the Warrior Macho Man feud. I mean, I've seen a couple YouTube videos, but as far as having an opinion on it, I really don't have one.
I mean during that time, I mean you had Savage feuding with Dusty Rhodes, the Common Man. He had a Scary Sherry with him, as we like to refer to her. I mean, it did the whole thing with the Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior refused to promise him some kind of the right to challenge for the title. He wasn't going to give him. He wouldn't guarantee him that he would fight him for the title or something. And then I remember, the Warrior was I don't know if he was a full out feud or he was just defending against Sergeant Slaughter or whatever. But I think Sergeant Slaughter had said that he would give Savage a title match if he beat the Warrior, but the Warrior wouldn't give him that same promise. And I remember that they kind of got into a little bit of a deal with that. They had a feud spawn off of all that and everything. So, what's your thoughts on it?
There's the thing. The one thing I remember from that feud is their very last match, where it was him versus Warrior, and they went at it. And I remember Macho just dropping elbow after elbow after elbow from the top rope, and he couldn't pin the Warrior. And then the Warrior beat him by standing on his chest, and I thought that was disrespectful, man. I thought it should have been Warrior barely beating him, and it was just the Warrior oh, hey, I'm bigger than you, regardless of what you did. It was a great match because they kicked the living shit out of each other, but, I mean, it's as much as they can in WWF, but that's the one thing that stuck in my mind is he just, Savage dropped 5 elbows from the top, legitimate, pow, and then the Warrior came back, and he basically won, and he stepped on Randy Savage's chest with his hands up in the air, and I was just I was pissed. I was really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of like the beginning of the end, if you think about it. Think about how we complain all this time about people kicking at it, too. Now, the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan were the originators of kicking at it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't keep them down. And then when Savage loses that match, I think that was a career-ending match for him, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. That's what it was.
And that's when he's laying hurt in the ring, and Sherry gets up there and starts beating on him and everything. It starts attacking him. Then don't Elizabeth come out at that point, and she's back with Randy Savage again one more time?
Yes.
That was the highlight of the whole thing, I guess. That was, I don't know if that was the peak they were building up to or what, but I do remember that happening with it and everything. But other than that, I mean, I didn't care for it too much. I didn't like the way it turned out. Like you, to take the Macho Man's career in that company, what he did for him and everything, have him lose to someone like that as they stand with one foot on him with their hand in the air. That's just adding in. That's not even a pin. That's just insult.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to make it like the Warrior. They literally wanted to make it like Conan the Barbarian. You know what I mean? Conan is he's a warrior, so he's standing on his opponent like he's like a god, and I don't like that. Let me just break from this, and I just want to say one thing, or just ask one thing: who is hotter, WWF Miss Elizabeth or WCW Miss Elizabeth? Think about it.
Wow. I'm kind of a WCW kind of guy, so I'm just saying.
She was definitely a little more promiscuously attired in WCW.
Because the thing was, she had meat on her bones. She looked curvy as compared to when she was. Don't get me wrong. Let me put it this way: she was beautiful in WWF. She was hot in WCW. Hot. I remember seeing her for the first time in a long time, and I was like, God damn.
KJ's like, she's got one word to describe her, and he's gonna spell it out. She's HAWT. Hot.
I thought you were. I didn't know. I thought I was gonna say God damn, but I think that's 2 words. So.
That's a little bit too long to spell, too. I mean.
Oh, I would though. I would do it. But anyway, do you think she would still be alive if she was with Macho?
No. She obviously. Well, I don't know. She obviously wouldn't have had the ability to be with Lex Luger and be on the road with him, and dipping into the drugs with him and everything. The question is, did Savage dip in those same drugs? Did he and she do the same thing as she was doing with Luger when they were on the road? I don't know.
This is true. Yeah, this is true because I've heard rumors.
Yeah, I don't know for sure if Savage was ever really on any drugs or if he was just that way.
No, there were people reportedly that he used to he'd be on the road. This was more toward WCW days. He was with Gorgeous George, and he would basically go and do a bump in the bathroom just before he went on an interview, and he was all hyped up. There's videos of him "Wah!" You're like, and they're like, Randy, are you okay? He's like, oh yeah, I'm like this all the time. And you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, and then you see, well, let me put it this way, you saw him on Arsenio Hall years before, and he wasn't like that at all. You could tell he wasn't all he was much more calm. So I don't know, man. I'm saying he was. I think he eventually got off of him, and dealt with him privately. But yeah, I mean, come on, man. Everybody was doing drugs, and they'll tell you, everybody was doing drugs back then. They were doing something. Somebody was doing something back then, and they were.
Oh, there was a video about the WCW days at the Great American Bash tours, and they've got the people back here in the locker rooms shooting up steroids. You could tell they're all on something. They're drinking. They got all kinds of stuff. There's pills being passed around.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them during that time would tell you it was a crazy time for those guys back then, and it was just everywhere.
Yeah, you saw Hulk doing a bump. He was doing cocaine right there, and he was all like, ah! He was all fucking jacked up, dude.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why he died, because his fucking heart exploded between the steroids and the drugs. A lot of those guys, that's what was going on. If it wasn't just steroids, it was drugs. That's gonna happen, especially when you mix the two. So
now Savage had some great matches with other people during his career at WWF, WWE. It wasn't just all about the Hogan Warrior bit. He had a great thing with Flair, as we said. He had a match against Shawn Michaels, Jake the Snake Roberts. When he had the thing with Jake the Snake Roberts, where he was tied up in the ropes and Jake had the snake out biting on his arm. People were freaking out. Kids were freaking out over that. There's a snake in the ring, and people have a fear and a phobia of snakes. I don't like snakes, for one. You won't see me around one, and if I can help it, if I see one, I go the opposite way. So for me, sitting there watching Randy Savage tied up in the ropes at that age, and he's got that snake clamped down on his arm, now you had to have known that he was defanged at that point. I'm sure that wasn't going to happen.
He couldn't let go of that. By the way, they were trying to get the fangs off of him. Jake the Snake was legitimately trying to get off of him, and he said it looked like I was trying to edge it on. He was like, I was trying to get it off of him, and they weren't coming out.
Yeah. So it's crazy stuff. He had a lot of great things going on there. Andre the Giant. A lot of people forget about him going against Andre the Giant some there as well too.
Yeah. And that was toward the end of Andre's career, which is a shame.
Yeah.
I think.
But now, when he made his debut to WCW, I'm trying to remember what it was. Did he make an appearance like the rest of them here? Let me see. Let me look something up real quick. Because the WCW time, he was only there for a couple of years, I think, or 3. Well, no, he may have been there for about 4 or 5 years. Actually, I'm thinking about it, about 4 years maybe.
Mhm.
But he came in as Macho Man, just his regular character at that one point first. And it says here, Savage made his first appearance for WCW on the December 3rd, 1994 episode of Saturday Night. He made reference to the love-hate relationship he had with Hogan, stated his desire to be the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He appeared at Starrcade later that month, saving Hogan from an attack by the Three Faces of Fear and shaking hands with his friend and rival. At Super Brawl 5, he teamed up with Sting and took on Avalanche and Big Bubba Rogers in a tag team match. So he kind of came in, I guess, right off the bat as a fan favorite there at that point. To WCW. I'm trying to see, did he have something with Flair at that one point? Oh yeah, here we go. I was thinking it had something to do with Flair again, but the following month in Uncensored, Savage wrestled Avalanche with a Savage getting the win with disqualification when a fan, who happened to be Ric Flair dressed in drag, attacked Savage, leading to a feud between Savage and Flair, where Flair attacked Savage's father, Angelo Poffo, at Slamboree.
Now, I do know that Savage won his first WCW title at World War III, and then he had a little stint the next month with Flair, and he lost the title, and that was it's Starrcade, I think.
The irony of it all is because I think WCW after like Vader and after all those guys, when the WWF guys came in, it wasn't as, I think all that stuff would have worked better in the WWF. Like if Flair did that, attacking Poffo and everything like that in the WWF, there's certain things that could have been legit in the WWF. And at that time, WWF was still hokey and all that other bullshit. But the stuff that worked really worked. And guys like Savage, guys like Flair, they weren't really hokey. They were and they weren't. So I think that could have worked definitely in WWF a little bit better than WCW. Because at that point, WCW was at where were they at? Orlando, right? They were at Disney, Orlando. They just didn't have that feel. Like Georgia Championship Wrestling had that feel. The WCW didn't have that feel. You understand what I mean?
It was a different. Yeah, it was a different era about it.
Yeah. It seemed more robotic. It was forced. At one point they said they were giving away tickets to people to watch WCW at that time. Until obviously they start doing more arenas and spin shows like that. So that's where I came in. Like it didn't have that. It didn't have the same thing. So.
And the thing, Mike, you were referring to earlier, World War III, Savage won his first WCW World Heavyweight Championship by winning the first ever 60-man 3-ring battle royal. Imagine going through something like that to be crowned the title, the champion at that point. 3 rings, 60 people. That's like the Royal Rumble times 2 with 3 rings.
Yeah.
It's a crazy match right there. Lost the title back to Flair a month later at Starrcade 85, the World Cup of Wrestling. Earlier that night, he had defeated Hiroyoshi Tenzan. Savage won his second WCW World Heavyweight Championship back from Flair on January 22nd, 96 on an episode of Nitro, but re-lost the title to Flair the next month in a steel cage match.
Which brings up something else here.
Go ahead.
When is the last time we saw... It used to be that you would see the title, the main title, lost on the televised TV show pretty frequently. And now they seem to have been getting away from that more and more. I don't know if it's because now we have two pay-per-views a month, or is that it's just the WWE?
I think that's the point. It's just the dollar signs involved with it. They know people would pay for those pay-per-views to see if the title would change hands versus giving away for free on Monday Night Raw.
But they're not giving it away for free because it's ratings. Yeah. This is part of what I think has led them to be losing ratings, because nothing unpredictable like this happens anymore. People pretty much know what the hell's going on.
Well, the thing that drives me crazy is if I go to a WWE event, I know the card. They give you a paper that has the card and who's on it. No surprises anymore. There's nothing. There's no like Goldberg should have been a surprise. Shane McMahon was a surprise. That's the first surprise. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And there's certain things that they do, but you're right. Like I loved the Raw after WrestleMania. You never, especially in the Attitude Era, you never knew what was going to happen. Titles could change hands like nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't know. The last title I know of is for Zack Ryder. He gets it, and he loses it to The Miz. You know what I mean? Like, the big guys, you lose it, and they're like, okay, well, maybe at the next pay-per-view, they're going to get it back. You know what I mean? Like, Kane went against Stone Cold. Stone Cold got beat by Kane. Kane comes back, or Stone Cold was back and beats Kane. You never knew. There's no air, especially when it comes to the titles. You're absolutely correct.
And the Intercontinental title might change hands on a show. That's happened a few times. We can say that. The Intercontinental title has changed hands a few times. I think we've even seen the tag titles change hands a couple of times. But you never see the World Heavyweight title, unless it's at a pay-per-view, go to anybody different. And let's face it, how many times do we actually see it go to anybody different anyway, once somebody actually has it? When one person has it, they usually have it for a while. And it's not that they build up a good storyline on it, where it's like, he almost had it that time. He almost had it. No, they don't do that. They just keep, rubbing it in your face that this guy's got it and we're not going to let nobody else get it. There's no real story to the whole thing.
So I got to break away from the Savage thing and ask this question to you, too. Is James Ellsworth going to win the World Championship?
You know what? I take Booker T's side on this. That man don't belong on the TV show. I'm sorry. He just don't.
But this is KJ?
I don't think he deserves it.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you, is he going to win it? Is the WWE going to put it on him?
Well, what Mike is asking is WWE going to do the equivalent of WCW putting the title on the movie star that came in at that time? I've drawn a blank on his name. David Arquette. Are they doing their version of David Arquette?
Okay,
basically?
Wait a minute. Before I say anything, just to let you know, David Arquette is a huge wrestling fan and did not want the title. I'm letting you know that because people didn't know that.
I already know the story behind
I'm just
it,
saying.
but they did it anyway, though. I mean,
yeah.
Because
that's what I'm saying.
I've got a mad man theory about what's going on, but I want to hear your opinion first, KJ, before I divulge my evil madman theory.
I can honestly say in my heart of hearts, I don't know, because the E will either give you something good or they'll give you something bad. I don't know if they're going to pull a championship gobbledygooker, but I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm going to go, I don't know. I'm speechless right now. I can't. I'm at a loss for words, so go ahead.
All right, boys, I've got a madman theory about what the E is up to.
Go ahead.
They are going to put this title on Ellsworth because it will devalue the World Championship and allow them to hang the Universal title on Bill Goldberg to legitimize it.
Ooh.
And at that point in time, you're going to have Ellsworth as the world champion and Bill Goldberg as Universal champion. That's what this is all culminating to.
Ooh.
Because they have been grasping at straws at ways to make that Universal title legitimate. This is the entire reason for bringing Goldberg into the company. This was the entire reason for bringing him back. Brock Lesnar was just the smoke and mirrors as the way to draw him in. It was very apparent with the job that Brock did for Goldberg that there was something bigger. And when he came out and said, "Do you have another title run in you, Bill?" I knew right there. It was revealed to me like an epiphany, like the gods of wrestling spoke to their prophet and said, "Mike, write it down. Write it down."
Prophet.
You write it down. I'm going to go the opposite direction of you, and I'm going to say they are not going to put the title on him. I'm going to say Goldberg is going to go into the Royal Rumble. Supposedly, Brock Lesnar is entering the Rumble. I think the two of them are going to brawl over the top rope and out of the whole darn place they're in, having the match, leading to another big match against them later on, to where they have match number 3. And I don't know if it'll be WrestleMania.
There's no need to have
WrestleMania
a
or where
match.
it may be, I don't know. But they'll
There's no
have
need
one
to
more
have a
match
match
after
number
that.
3. There's no need to have a match number.
There might
There's
be a
no
need
title
for it,
break.
but they're gonna do it because the fans will once again pay for it when they build it up a little bit. They may do a little bit better job of building it up, but they're gonna build it up again. It's gonna be a little later down the road. They'll clash at the Rumble with each other. Something may happen this also to where maybe Brock gets eliminated and Goldberg stands a chance of winning that match to go on for the title shot at WrestleMania, and Brock comes back down and pulls him over the top rope and gets him eliminated.
The only way, mark my words, the only way that you're going to see Goldberg versus Lesnar again at WrestleMania is as if Lesnar beats Kevin Owens for that Universal title now, and Goldberg wins the Rumble and beats him at WrestleMania for it.
I don't know if there's anything you can do to make that work in with the current storyline, though. There's no way you can just plug that in and have a match against, because for one thing, Brock's not a face. They already got too many people right now that's going against. They can be there to go against Owens that they're wanting to put there. They still want Seth Rollins in the mix. For whatever reason, they still want Roman Reigns in the mix somewhere. They still look for that.
It's the E.
I know.
I'm telling you.
The two of them alone. You got the possibility of a Jericho face turn, because the whole best friend storyline thing can really work out to a good WrestleMania match still. And we already theorized on how that could happen. With Jericho winning the Royal Rumble.
But now we have Bill Goldberg. I'm telling you, this is they're going to try to legitimize that Universal title with Bill Goldberg.
Yeah, but I think it's just, I don't know, man. I think it's a stretch with Ellsberg. I really look. I'm thinking that Chris is the thing. Here's the thing: people want to see, regardless of what anybody says, Lesnar and Goldberg. They want to see it. They wouldn't set this up.
Why would they want to see it? He beat him in like a minute and 26 seconds.
But they want to see. No.
Tell them what we talked about last week, KJ. Tell him, because he wasn't here for last week. Tell him what our theory was last week on why it happened that way.
Okay, here's a few theories. One, I read somewhere by a legitimate source that he was harboring an injury, so they didn't want to do that. Two, he couldn't do a long match. He couldn't do more than 5 minutes, and it would have been the same thing, except for with, some different things. What they're doing is they're setting up for a WrestleMania match. They're also setting up, Bill needs to, and he even said it, I need to work out more. I need to get back into better shape. So what they're going to do is they're going to take 5 months, because what is he going to do at, what's he going to do at Royal Rumble? He's going to, go into the match. All he has to do is eliminate people. You're not wrestling. You're eliminating people. That's it. There's no real work to it. I mean, there is, but there isn't. So there's no brains behind it. I believe what Chris said actually makes sense, but we'll go back. So you have that. You have him destroy him because you need to make him look larger than life. The problem with Brock is he's larger than life. Who more larger than life, regardless of how old he is, of how anything? It's like Hogan. See, people think, they forget. When Hogan went against fucking, what's his name, The Rock, he was up there. He couldn't even climb the fucking ropes to give him a 10 count. He needed help. Rock was helping him up to get him to punch him. Here's the thing. He did it twice. They had 2 matches with Hogan and Rock. 2. So why the fuck would you not want to have these 2 Goliaths go at it? That's the thing. People want to see it, and they want to see if in a good match because look at it this way. The way they sold it too is that Brock didn't care. He's like, I'm going to beat this guy. And what did they do? He pushed him down. He got up lazy, didn't expect to get speared, and then got speared again. It looked as legitimate as it possibly could.
That's what I was about to bring up. To get you to tell that part, because you were missing that whole part the whole time you brought up last week. If you're looking at a kayfabe point of view of it, a kayfabe angle, even though kayfabe is dead, if you're looking at it from a kayfabe angle, when he turns around to get up, he gets speared pretty much out of nowhere. It's like he's not expecting a spear that early in the match. The first spear supposedly hurts him. He takes a minute to get up, takes a second spear, which might have cracked or broke a rib, they're saying. If that didn't do it, then the jackhammer broke a rib at the end of it there, and that caused him to go ahead and give up on the match, and he's counted out 1, 2, 3. Yes, it went way too quick, but that's how it played out.
But it did what it needed to do for the reasons I just said. And you could do it like this. Let's just say you saw a fight, boxing, UFC. What happens is you get a guy that you know is going to get destroyed or whatever. You go against a guy that you know that's going to destroy you. So what do? Go for something that you don't even think about. Blitz him and knock him out right off the bat. I've seen it in fights before. Like, pow! Like, holy shit, how did that happen? And that's what you do. Now everybody's talking about it. People are still talking about it, whether it's they hated it or they loved it. People are talking about that.
What about this? This is another theory that I have.
Yeah.
What if they go a completely different direction with it? It's not about the Universal title.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things going around, a lot of rumors, if you say, that this is The Undertaker's last WrestleMania.
Oh, I hope.
Heard it many times.
Yes, I hope.
What if, because he says he's back taking souls and digging holes. He actually said that on SmackDown.
Then he said WrestleMania, he said, WrestleMania does not define who I am. That's exactly what he said.
Right.
So why?
Exactly. Because he's going to try to take the World Championship from AJ Styles. What if Taker wins the World Championship from Styles and Bill Goldberg wins the Royal Rumble, and then he takes the Undertaker at WrestleMania?
Oh my God!
Undertaker's last WrestleMania.
No.
Because after destroying
Lesnar,
the man who broke the streak, could Bill Goldberg be the man to end the career?
Oh, I hope not. Oh, please, I don't. Like, I'm already sad now. I'm really bummed out. Like, please don't let that happen.
Oh,
like,
am I going to make you cry, KJ?
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm not happy. I'm telling you, I'm not happy because I could see that. I could see it happening, and I hate it. I hate it.
I haven't been happy since Taker came back after losing WrestleMania to Lesnar. It serves no purpose anymore. It's hollow. It's empty.
Yeah.
And to know that, well, I guess not to know, but to hear the rumors that Vince wanted him to lose to Shane McMahon at WrestleMania was absolutely, positively infuriating to me as a fan.
I don't know. I thought the opposite. I would have been happy as hell. I would have been happy. Because Undertaker should, I'm, let me put it this way. It started with his streak. When he got out of the ring, he wasn't, the Undertaker. He hasn't been the Undertaker where he kind of sits up and he's a powerhouse. Now he gets out of the ring. Even when he went against Bray Wyatt, he went against the ring, and that's who they should have gave the win to. But he was, walking out and all effed up. He's supposed to be the Undertaker. He's supposed to, no matter what happens, get up and walk out on his own reconnaissance like nothing ever happened. And that's not what happened. And it hasn't happened. So I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I think he's less deserving to be in the ring than Goldberg, to be quite honest. I do.
Well, he's older than Goldberg.
Well, but it's not just that. It's that you have desecrated your character. You've desecrated your character. Why come back? He should have left. I'm going to tell you who should have beat him or how I believe that Triple H and him in a cage with Shawn Michaels, them walking out, that should have been his last match. Should have been his last match. That was a perfect match to end it. The streak was intact, and there you go. But no, they had CM Punk, and of
course, CM Punk's not going to beat him. You know, they have Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's not going to beat him. Why would they have him beat him? You know what I mean? Like, it's empty. And ever since that streak ended, ever since that WrestleMania match I just said, the cage match with Triple H, it's desecrated. It's just, I'm disgusted with Undertaker and that whole character. I really am. I'm kind of done. That's why when you said, no, it has to be. To me, it has to be one match and one match only. It has to be Goldberg and it has to be Lesnar. It has to happen.
It could be Taker.
Be anything else.
It could be Taker.
No, I hope it's not. I hope you're wrong. I'd rather have Ellsberg win the title and have that whole scenario than Taker. Like, I don't want Taker at WrestleMania. I don't even want him in the crowd. I don't want him eating popcorn. I almost want to take his cable from him so he doesn't watch it. Like, don't even show up.
Oh, God, Killjoy, you're killing me. Hey, Chris.
Sir, yes, sir.
Hey, back to the Macho Man. So, did he diddle Stephanie McMahon? I've got to ask.
You know, I've never got to talk to him personally to ask him if he did or did not, but it was a very strong rumor that it did.
It seemed like there was a lot of, more than just rumor, but like people that seemed to be in the know that there was some maybe underage philandery going on there.
Well, I talked to him before he died. He said that she snapped into a Slim Jim. I didn't know what that meant, but
Did he go,
oh, yeah!
No,
or did she go? Oh, yeah.
No, he grabbed me by the throat and he said, if you ever tell anybody while I'm alive, I'll kill you. And I was like, okay. And I said, oh, yeah, because I should have named. Anyway, I don't know, man. I don't know. It could happen. Who knows? He could have. I don't see him as doing it though. I don't know. I don't see him doing that. Something tells me he didn't do that. I think that was a rumor. I think that was all it was. He was a cute little hot thing too. God damn.
See, there goes Killjoy talking out both sides of his mouth. You know, I really don't think he would do that, but damn, that underage Stephanie McMahon, I'd hit that shit.
I didn't say, hey, I didn't say who I was, and it's not bad touching if thinking about it now, 2016. We're good. We're okay. Anyway, so
slowly working his way out of trouble here.
Oh, there you go. No, I wish she didn't have fake boobs. I didn't realize she had fake boobs until like 5 years ago, and I'm like, those are fake. I thought she just got them lifted and they were huge. And they're like, nope.
Yeah. She didn't have fake boobs, I think, until what, 2001? 2002? Yeah. Jericho pointed it out.
Yes. Well, you know what's funny is she knows it. She's like, I got linebacker shoulders. And then she walks. I'm like, oh, hike. Anyway.
Okay, so let's go ahead and save KJ now and get it over with. Back to the Macho Man.
You
still on the Macho Man. Mike, you brought up earlier about his TNA little stint that he had from 2004-2005. Talks about how he made his return to professional wrestling at Total Nonstop Action Wrestling at Victory Road by confronting Jeff Jarrett. Savage would make his Impact debut on November 19th, where he confronted the Kings of Wrestling. Savage would make one final Impact appearance on November 26th when he showed up at the end of the show, leading the Force against the King of Wrestling. On December 5th at Turning Point, he teamed with Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles to defeat the Kings of Wrestling, Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall, in his last in-ring match. The main event, Final Resolution, January 2005, was scheduled to be Jarrett and Savage for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The plan was for Savage to win the championship and then drop it back to Jarrett at the next pay-per-view. However, Savage left TNA due to health concerns and retired from professional wrestling altogether. Do you think that would have been worthwhile if he had went on through with that? Would that have been something you would have watched?
I wasn't watching it to begin with, so probably not.
But if you knew about it, though, if you knew how it was going on, how it was turning out, would you have turned it on at that point?
Perhaps if Savage would have been in a little better shape, because he was definitely not in good shape. I mean, it would have been cool to see Randy Savage as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Well, KJ?
I see that I wasn't around at that time, unfortunately, but I don't know. God, see, I hate seeing like older wrestlers continue to try or whatever. Like, I get it, but you're not the same, man. Just walk away, you know. And I just kind of feel like in this particular, I know I wouldn't watch it. I'm telling you right now.
But you got to realize, he wasn't that old. You keep talking like he's Ric Flair's age in 2004, and he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, no, but he was old, dude. He was old. He was past. It doesn't matter. He was past his prime. He just was like Flair. I couldn't watch Flair in 2004 wrestle, to be quite honest, because all he did was bleed. That was his all he did was bleed.
Well, yes, but Flair was also older than Savage in 2004.
Yeah, I know, but it's still past your prime. It's past your prime. Sorry, like.
Well, there's a big difference. There's Gypsy Joe past your prime, still trying to wrestle at 82, and then there's Bob Backlund in the 90s, in their 40s, past your prime. There's a huge difference there, KJ.
I know, but I still don't want to see either. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't. Leave it this way. You're long in the tooth. I don't think you're doing it like you can do it. And see ya. Like, look at the exception to the rule. I'm going to tell you this right now. Dustin Rhodes, Gold Dust, is wrestling better than he ever has. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's the drugs or whatever. That guy can wrestle now. He's great. He can move.
Okay. What about Kurt Angle?
I think Kurt Angle's another anomaly. He's an anomaly.
47 years old.
But he could still go. There's anomalies. He's an anomaly. He's somebody that's an Olympic training, Olympic wrestler who still is probably in better shape than half the guys in the locker room. He could still get it done. Now, that could go, unfortunately, at any time. He can just, this is around the time where he can, like, who doesn't want to see, and I mean, and people are still talking about it. People are disappointed in what happened to Goldberg because the second option, Kurt Angle, people wanted him to come and wrestle Brock Lesnar. Because let's face it, that would be a great match. Still. And it would be a heated match.
Those are some of the best Brock Lesnar matches out there, even though I think 2 out of 3 of them he wound up trying to do a shooting star press and pogo sticked his own head in the mat.
Yeah, what a dope.
God.
Something.
Hey, I'm a big muscle guy. I want to try to do a shooting star press. Oh, well, I'm a lawn dart.
Well, no, here's the thing. Ouch. If he was doing it properly, if he had been practicing for months to do it, fine. But he literally said that he just decided to do it. And you're like, you're a dummy. Now,
a shooting star press. I mean, come on. Do a Vader bomb or a moonsault or something, Don't do a shooting star press.
No, but here's the thing. If he would have landed it, people would have shit their pants. So there's something to that. Everybody knows he can do a power bomb. Everybody knows he can do that. Like, whatever. He's super strong. Fucking probably lift a fucking Fiat, fucking F5 it. But what I'm saying is, he wanted to do something crazy. That's just like when Big Show went to the top rope and fucking did an elbow. And successfully. And I almost shit myself. Because I'm like, oh my God, that ring is going to die. He's going to die. And he did it. He went against Mark Henry and did it. And I was like, oh my fucking God. And I'll never forget that. However, I'll also never forget him fucking Lesnar lawn darting against him. So it all depends on the success of what you do. Now getting back to it, I would love to see an Angle Lesnar match. Not now. Why? Because that stigma is broken now. That whole mystique is broken. That mystique is gone. What I would have loved is, think about it. Lesnar's like, whatever. All of a sudden you hear, dun, 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 dun. People would lose their fucking mind. Because legitimately, Angle is older, he can still go. And everybody knows he can still go. If the problem is, WWE doesn't want to touch him. They don't want to touch him. They don't want nothing to do with him because he's a big mouth, unfortunately. Told everybody that he was talking to WWE, and they're like, okay, well, we didn't want that to be known, so fine. And that's it. The thing is, WWE has to stop opening their mouths, get talent in, and I know it's hard because it's an age of social media, but there's got to be a way you can bring people in and on the hush and just have people. I would love to be surprised. Why not surprise your people, your fans, out of nowhere? Don't say anything. See what happens. Do you really think Kurt Angle would have been booed? No. It would have been. They would have popped. They would have blew the fucking roof off. Seriously. So that's how I feel. Wait, what was the question?
You didn't figure what you were talking about, did you, by any chance? I mean,
no. I just kind of go.
Kurt Angle would be great to see come back, and it would be great to see him go against Brock Lesnar. Yes, but if it's going to be done, it has to be done a certain way. First and foremost, you cannot do it in any way, shape, or form that it's known by people that it's going to happen. It has to be unknown to the day it happens, to where the pop is legit and real. If it's not, then it's not going to be worthy, and it shouldn't happen at that point. So unless they're going to do it right, they shouldn't do it at all. Just my opinion on that, of course. But I mean,
that's an opinion. That's an opinion. I like I said, Shane McMahon. Nobody knew he was coming. Nobody. I was hoping. I was doing dishes. All of a sudden, I heard it. I was squeezed like a little girl and came out, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So that's what I'm saying. That you're absolutely right. Secrecy is the key.
Hey, maybe we'll see a surprise at the Royal Rumble this year.
Let's hope. The last 3 years, it really hasn't been anybody. Come on.
No, and we kind of touched on this last week, Mike. So let's go and get your point of view here. If you had to pick anybody, it's going to be a surprise entry to the Rumble this year. Who are you going to pick?
Oh my gosh! Anybody at all?
Well, within reason, of course. I mean, it can be somebody from NXT. It can be a returning person from the past. It could be Kurt Angle, like you were talking earlier. It could be anybody that's going to be reasonable, though.
So they can't be dead. That sucks.
Yeah, that kind of
negates
it.
Unless you are the Undertaker, you're not allowed to come back from the dead in the WWE.
This is true. I mean, I think obviously the big one is Kurt Angle.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. That's the only one out there that I would even have. I mean, I think Flair would get kind of a cheap pop to just see him come out and woo. Oh yeah, you know they would. You know the crowd would just go nuts.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
You wouldn't, but the crowd would. It's the Rumble. They wouldn't expect it. He hasn't competed.
The only reason it would be the only thing that would make it good is if he was in and out in a shorter time than what Jerry Lawler was, or Bushwhacker Luke, or whichever one it was. Maybe in Butch.
I don't care. But oh my God, I'd rather have Iron Sheik come shuffling down than Flair. Swear to God.
Now you know what?
See another Drew Carey entry.
Oh gosh,
yeah,
no celebrities, no celebrities. We cannot do celebrities no more. That's just shouldn't be allowed.
Wait, what? No Pete Rose. No Pete Rose chokeslam.
No more Pete Rose. That wore its welcome after a couple of years. No more Pete Rose. It was funny the first time it happened. It was funny when he came back as a chicken to try and get him back.
You know what? I do have another one.
What was that?
Bobby Lashley.
There you go.
No.
That would be excellent.
Or Broken Matt Hardy.
Hey, listen. Bobby Lashley
versus
Brock Lesnar would be excellent.
Yeah, I guess. But you broken
Matt Hardy,
people
that's been kicked around though. It's been kicked around of the WWE kind of courting him a little bit because they want him back there with that angle he's got going on because Triple H really likes the angle.
I love the angle. Are you kidding me? He basically literally broke down his character from scratch and made something up. Like dude, it's brilliant. People don't like it. I think it's brilliant. If he came, people would lose their minds. People would lose their minds. The biggest one. The biggest one. You know who the biggest one is, right? The one that will never happen. CM Punk.
Yeah.
You
never say never, but it's very unlikely. We'll say very unlikely.
I know.
Unlikely.
I'm just saying. If it did, people would mark out.
I would literally turn the television off. I would not watch.
I would watch it, but I mean, it would be just the whole thing would be cool.
After his attitude towards the fans. After all that, I have zero respect for Phil Brooks. He can kiss my ass as a wrestling fan, and I don't care. I'd say it right to his face, to that smug little face of his, that he's not bigger than the wrestling business. He's not bigger than the wrestling fans. He can be a dick to anybody he wants to, and he won't be a dick to me because I'll smack him right in the fucking face. I don't care.
Great, Mike. Now we'll never get CM Punk on the show.
I don't care. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
You know
that's not gonna happen.
I'll get my 20-year-old neighbor to kick his ass in 3 seconds. Because that's who he is.
Dude, you know who we can get now though? Colt Cabana, because they're not talking anymore. So
that is true. Look, I want to get this out there real quick because we got 3 minutes left to go and then the whole thing here.
New Day Rock.
We'll go ahead and wrap. Well, now you want to get in early, don't you?
Hey, I want to talk about it. They're going to beat Demolition's title reign.
I hope so.
They're going to do
Next week, Demolition. That's what we're doing.
There you go.
It is
we have run off Randy Savage. Randy Savage is over with. That was all we're talking about on him. But I will say this. I brought up with KJ last week the Global Force Wrestling that Jeff Jarrett's doing. It was brought up in a video that I seen that he's scamming people now, supposedly, and he's not really putting any wrestling matches out there. Well, no sooner than I see that, than do I see this just the other day. Jeff Jarrett is announcing they have a new Next Generation World Heavyweight Champion of GFW. Do you guys know who it is?
Yes, that would be Cody Rhodes, please.
Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is the new heavyweight champion for GFW, which I think is pretty cool. That's a good name to fit. But the problem is he still has that roster on his webpage that has about 6 people who are currently in the WWE. He needs to update his roster, if anything. If you're going to be a business, be legit, get your stuff up to date, keep things current. Don't just announce on Twitter you get a new champion. Who's on your roster now? We need to know all this stuff. If we're going to try and keep up with it and get things out there about it. But anyway, we're down to a minute 40 seconds here. We got to go start wrapping things up. KJ, I mentioned to Mike and people who are listening, we're going to try and get a video out soon where we do a live video type podcast if we can, and we're going to try and work that out. It'll work with YouTube Live if we do it, I believe, and we're going to test that out here soon and try some things out. So we get to set a night aside one day, guys, where we do test these things out. Everybody, of course, don't forget to go to the YouTube page itself and check out all the former podcasts we have and interviews with people. We are on Facebook at bodyslamthecompetition.com. We are at Twitter at bodyslamthecomp because it wouldn't fit the whole darn name on there. And we do have, believe it or not, an Instagram. Yes, with followers, too. With followers. Bodyslam the Competition on Instagram. Follow us on there as well.
What about a Pinterest? Do we have a Pinterest?
We do, but we don't do so well with it because I can't take all of them and work them all at the same time. I get too tired of it.
I want some recipes. That's what I want.
We have a recipe to make those old WWE popsicles. Just put crap on one piece of cardboard and crap on another and smash it together and call it an ice cream on a stick. That's all you do.
CM Punk?
And yes, exactly. 20 seconds of counting. Mike says New Day rocks. KJ can't wait till next Sunday gets here. And
29 minutes late.
And as far as what next week's episode will be about, well, that's for us to know and you guys to find out. Look for us next week. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. See you next week.